Hi, my name is Dan Serafiti with Ameritex Fabric Systems. Today we're going to work through the process of installing your replacement Ameritex Bimini canvas onto an existing frame when the Bimini top does not have zippered bow pockets. The first step in this process is to remove the existing canvas from the framework. We'll begin by removing the boot from the assembly and setting it off to the side. We're going to want to make sure that we're doing this on a clean, dry surface so that we're not damaging the new canvas or staining the new canvas that we're going to be adding onto the framework. Once the boot has been removed, we're going to go ahead and open up the entire top and lay it face down onto the ground with the legs from the framework pointing up in the air. With the original Bimini top open and upside down, it's time to start the disassembly process. We'll start at the front with the straps that are wrapped around the frame. We'll go ahead and undo the straps first and pull them out of the bow pocket. And then using either a Phillips or a slotted screwdriver, we'll start at the back and start removing the bolts out of the jaw slides. Make sure we hang on to these. We'll pull the stanchions off and then we'll disconnect the jaw slides that actually secure the bows together. Once this portion has been done and the entire side has been disconnected, we will simply move over to the second side and perform the exact same operations so that our frame is completely disassembled. Now with the connection points disassembled on both sides, we're simply going to let the framework kind of collapse down and lay flat. So we'll lay the middle bow down and just allow the whole thing to kind of fall down in on itself. And then starting at one side, we're going to release the snap from the patch. Now most Ameritex Bimini tops have a center snap that's in the bow pocket that marries up to a center snap on the frame. Before we start trying to pull the tubing out of the bow pockets, we're going to have to make sure that that snap has been released. I'll do it on the front side or the rear, then go perform the exact same operation on the opposite side. We can start feeding the framework out of the bow pockets on the top. Starting with the center, we simply lift it up and pull and rotate it out of the bow pocket, and then we can set that aside. The exact same thing takes place now on the front side, a little bit longer, but we still feed it through and around, setting it aside, and then the final bow as well. Now with this one, it will be a bit trickier because you've got all the fittings on this bow. So as you're feeding it through, you're going to need to make sure that you're not catching the fittings from the framework on the pocket and that you're actually feeding it through from the back end a little bit more. But once you've got all the fittings into the pocket, you can then simply go ahead and pull the whole thing through and the entire bow out. And now you have your framework removed out of your top. So we've at this point taken our old canvas and removed it from the framework, and now it's time to take and add that framework back into your new top that you've ordered from Ameritex Direct. We'll start by taking the brand new top out of the packaging, unrolling it, and laying it out flat once again on a clean, dry surface. Just to help keep everything straight in your own head, it might be easiest to lay it out and orient it in the exact same way that you had removed your old canvas, just to kind of help jog your memory and make sure that everything's going back together the easiest it possibly can. With the canvas laid out, we're going to go ahead and orient the very first bow. I typically use the bow that's got the majority of the jaw slides on it that have most of the connection pieces that are going to be needed for the other bows to tie into. So before I even start trying to feed anything through, I'm just going to go ahead and lay the bow out and just simulate how it's going to be positioned in the fabric, making sure that all of my jaw slides again are realigned for bow attachment. And then with it, once I have it the way I want it, I'm going to go ahead and start with that first side, pulling it back and feeding it into the bow pocket. Now, just as we talked about taking it out, we want to make sure that as we're feeding it back into the pocket, that we're gently feeding it through all of these fittings to make sure that we don't snag or have any ripping that takes place. and we slide it all the way through until it pops out the other side. And then we're gonna go ahead and move into the middle and reconnect that snap in the middle of the bow pocket onto the snap that's on the bow, and just to kind of lock everything into place and keep it from sliding around. You may have to feel for it a little bit, but you can easily adjust it side to side and get that snap in place, and then you can leave that laying flat. With the primary bow in place, we're going to repeat the exact same process on the opposite end now with the forward bow. And we're still going to want to make sure that we're double checking our orientation here, making sure that any additional jaw slides, possibly for stanchion attachment, are facing the right direction. And also for the centering snap that we've got that attaches on the middle bow pocket, that the bow's traveling in a way to where that snap faces up at this point, so that we know we're going to be able to snap our bow pocket on. Once we know we've got it oriented the right way, we'll go ahead and pull it back and begin feeding it through the pocket. Now, as we start to feed through here, we do have those cutouts where the straps go, and we're going to want to make sure that we're putting some care into slowly feeding it through and making sure that we're not having the end of our bow protrude through the strap cutouts, and that it actually travels all the way to the outside end of the bow pocket. Once that's been fed all the way through, we'll go ahead and lay it flat and then move back into the middle, where we will once again attach our center snap for the bow pocket. With the front now in place, we'll go ahead and add in our center bow. Now, depending on your top configuration, this could be a single bow in the center, it could be two bows, but we'll go ahead and just slide the bow into the pocket, twisting it through. And then once we've got that in, now we can go ahead and start standing framework back up again and reattaching our points. And we'll do this one side at a time, and I'll typically attach the two longest bows together first and just feed my bolt back in, then bring my second bow pocket in, insert that one into position, and with both bolts finger tightened, I'll go ahead and tighten them down the rest of the way. Once I have both points fully secured, I will move to the opposite side and do the exact same thing, making sure we have now our entire bow assembly fully put together. With the bows now secured together, we'll complete the installation by adding on our stanchions and our straps. So starting on one side, we'll go ahead, add our stanchions into the jaw slides, and just put those, secure them in place with the bolt, and hand tighten. And then we will move on the same side to the front and add our straps back in. Now for this, one end of your strap should be looped, and you're simply going to reach through the bow pocket cutout, feed the strap in, wrap it around the bar, and pull it back through. Then feed the strap through the loop on the end and wrap it around the bow so that it's secured into place. And then this entire process repeats on the opposite side. We now have our stanchions added onto the back and our straps added onto the front of the Bimini top. So at this point we can go ahead, collapse the entire thing, and then just stand the top up, and we can at this point just rearrange it and use our straps to wrap around to compress the top, which will make it easier to add the boot back on. Once we have the boot on, the entire assembly is now ready to transport back onto the boat. We've now transported the entire Bimini top kit onto the boat and attached it into the mounts that were already in place. We've deployed the top forward, and our final adjustment is to just adjust the straps out to make sure that they're putting appropriate tension on the top. With this done, your new Bimini top from Aerotex Direct should protect you and your boat for years to come.